Celtics 76ers might be closer than I thought. In game two, we saw an absolute role reversal from game one. Boston missing tons of shots that they would normally hit. Philly making tons of shots that they probably shouldn't have hit. We had VJ Edgecombe going 6 of 10 from three. He is a decent three-point shooter. He has had a solid rookie season in that regard. He's not a 60% three-point shooter, especially not on that volume. Boston really should not be too worried about that. Moving forward in this series, it is an outlier of a game for Philly. Similar to game one, I don't think Philly will shoot as bad as they did in game one again. I also don't think they'll shoot as good as they did last night again. I think over the course of the series, the shooting should level out. And in that case, I do still have the favor going to Boston pretty heavily. Very rough night on offense for the Celtics all the way around. They got very few easy looks at the rim compared to game one. Philly was being very intentional about packing the paint and really collapsing the defense on anyone driving to the basket. And Boston's kick-out threes just were not falling, which did really stagnate the offense. They couldn't get anything easy going in the paint or on the perimeter. And when that happens for Boston, they do really struggle to put any points on the board. That is what we saw last night. Again, similar to Philly's shooting, I think that over the course of the series, it is going to level out for Boston. I don't think that they have anything to be too concerned about moving forward. In that vein, we had Boston's three best shooters in D. White, Sam Hauser, and Peyton Pritchard going a combined 4 of 22 from three, which is 18%. Boston as a team shot the three very poorly, but those three guys in particular are going to be Boston's most consistent, most reliable shooters. Tatum does get up there in terms of volume, but their percentages are not usually there in the way that they are for these three. They can be a bit more selective with their shots. D. White, his percentages have been down all season, but I do think that he can dial it up in the playoffs. So again, 18% from those three guys should not happen again. And on the whole, if they can start hitting their shots, it opens up the rest of the offense for everyone else on the Celtics as well. VJ Edgecombe really was the catalyst here for Philly, especially in that second quarter. Again, the Celtics were kind of running the game through the first quarter, even though the score itself was a little bit tight. But Edgecombe really came alive in that second quarter. The offense was being run through him, and he stepped up to the occasion, really made the Celtics pay from deep, while also getting his hands dirty on the offensive glass and bring that energy that he has become known for throughout his sole season in the league so far. Maxey kind of took a back seat in that regard in a lot of ways, and it honestly worked wonders for Philly. You do have to wonder if that is going to be something they experiment with more moving forward in this series, letting Edgecombe run the defense, because they did get great results in the small sample size that we have seen so far. The two duos for each team, that being Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, had pretty comparable stats tonight. The difference really did come down to those role players hitting their shots, which in Philly's case, they were able to do at a much higher clip. Sixers were playing a more free style of basketball without having to worry about Embiid getting his touches. With Embiid potentially coming back for game three, maybe game four, it is going to be interesting if they're able to stick with that style of offense, or if they're going to feel pressured to get Embiid his paint touches, which could mess up the chemistry of the offense, especially as he's only like 2 weeks removed from his appendectomy surgery. So you do wonder if that's going to mess with the flow of the offense. Maxey and Edgecombe really had it going tonight. Got the role guys going as well. Inserting Embiid into that offense may not even be the best option for Philly. Another reason I don't think Boston should be too worried about going into Philly tied 1-1 is they often let teams back into series when they shouldn't. I don't think that this win changes anything ultimately. The Celtics just have to be very careful not to let the Sixers start to build momentum with a second win in a row back in Philly, because that is when things could start to get dicey for Boston. As long as they lock in win game three, they should be feeling very good. One concern for the Celtics moving forwards is last night did feel a bit like last season's matchup against the Knicks. Celtics facing a less talented team, but just getting too caught up in shooting threes to go after their most productive and efficient shots, and just forcing up those threes at an unreasonable rate, even when they aren't falling. I do think that if Boston took 10 or 15 less threes a game, instead had a slightly more steady diet of paint touches for Kata, ISOs for Peyton Pritchard, and mid-ranges for Tatum, Brown, and White, and have a much more balanced offense that really forces Philly to pick their poison rather than just allowing them to goad Boston into taking every open three they come across. There's no reason for Boston to be shooting 53 pointers in a game, even if they are shooting them at a pretty decent clip. That really does not have to be everything that Boston's defense is predicated upon. I would like to see them get back to that regular season form, shooting the three ball at a high rate, but not relying on it as that primary form of offense. That does bring me to my one primary critique of Joe Mazzulla as a coach, and that is his tendency come playoff time to live and die by the three ball. It worked in 2024 when the Celtics had the most talented team in the league. They probably would have won the championship that season no matter what they did. But after seeing it fail against the Knicks last postseason and losing a lot of the pieces from that championship roster this past offseason, this year they've been playing a much more well-rounded brand of basketball that we simply didn't see in Game 2. If Boston wants to hunt their shots at the rim and in the mid-range to get a rhythm going before turning to the deep ball so heavily, they're more than capable of doing that. It just ultimately comes down to if that's what Mazzulla wants to do. I do think that that is a more sustainable game plan for Boston as they get deeper into the playoffs. Looking far ahead, even to potentially the Eastern Conference Finals, if they match up against a Detroit team, that's a situation where I think it makes more sense to rely on that three ball. Detroit's not going to give up any easy points at the rim. Against a team like Philly, though, they really don't have the rim protection or the big-bodied centers to really make it that difficult on Boston. They could be getting way more easy points than we saw them get last night. And so that is my one critique of Joe Mazzulla, is just really living and dying by the three ball, especially when he doesn't have to at this point in the playoffs. All in all, I don't think anyone should be overreacting to one bad game from the C's. The fact remains that they're a much more complete team on both sides of the ball than Philly, and they just have to get back to basics at the times when the three-point shots aren't falling, instead of doubling down like they did in Game 2. I still have the Celtics in 5. I could see the Sixers taking another game off them if they play at a similar level to tonight. But again, I am doubtful that Philly is able to shoot the three ball at this high clip again, and I also don't think Boston will shoot it this badly again. So with all that said, Celtics in 5.